For part 2 of this, the heat, production, and chemistry of evolving stars. It's written here. It is stated that stars continually radiate over their lifetimes, as the majority of their energy is produced via chemical combination reactions, which are exothermic, meaning heat releasing. This means stars are not fusion powered, but are electrochemical and thermochemical in nature. It is also stated that the activation energy required for the chemical combination reactions is provided by gravitational potential energy as the star collapses and cools. Heterolysis during stellar metamorphosis. It is now stated that stars undergo chemical heterolysis. It is explained that the process of chemical heterolysis is present in the Sun and all young stars. Jeffrey Walensky, ignore that crank stuff, states, during heterolysis, a neutral particle split into its component positive and negative parts, with the introduction of electrical current. The strength of the electrical current to break apart the new particle is known as decomposition voltage, or decomposition potential. These negative and positive parts are then ejected from young hot stars. This is known as solar wind. Therefore, the solar wind is direct evidence of chemical compounds on the Sun, chemical reactions, decomposition and synthesis reactions, and electrical current. To deny this observational fact is to deny star science itself in favor of fusion pseudoscience. Heterolytic fissioning will continue indefinitely on the Sun until the particles reach a more stable equilibrium. Thus, the solar wind will eventually die. This is predicted to happen when the majority of the plasmatic material phase transition or recombines to form mostly neutral gas, which has higher breakdown voltages as opposed to plasma. This means the star will cool and become a gas giant, and will cease production of wind as cations and anions. Plasma is electrolytic substance. The theory states that plasma is comprised of ions and electrons, and all Sun-like stars are comprised of plasma. This means that stars like the Sun are much better suited for electrochemical and redox reactions, as they are completely comprised of free ions and electrons. The addition of coefficients of thermal expansion and contraction. In another one of the videos, he claims that the equations for stellar structure are absent coefficients for thermal contraction and expansion. This is true. There are no equations for thermal expansion and contraction inside of the stellar equations. They ignore it because it doesn't suit their models, it doesn't suit their belief systems. Which is really strange because this is basic engineering. This is one of the largest claimed discrepancies for standard models of star evolution and the behavior of the crusts of ancient stars absent the concept of plate tectonics. Plate tectonics also does not have coefficients of thermal expansion and contraction. They completely ignore that. And they don't talk about it in geology because it's not a part of the paradigm. Yet we all know when engineers build bridges, they designed them to be able to contract and expand in the night and day cycles. That's why there are cracks inside of concrete bridges, or there are gaps in concrete bridges. Because if there wasn't, there'd be cracks all over the place and they wouldn't be able to be managed effectively and the bridge would lose its structural integrity. Okay, I have that. It's also written here the role of electrolyte insulating and conducting material. Plasma is comprised of free ions and electrons. Preventing the flow of both free ions and electrons as well as the flow of electricity via conduction is another central concept to stellar evolution. Appropriately locating and examining which dielectrics are present in abundance in the atmospheres of evolving stars is also touched on. Weather patterns on stars. In this theory, weather on evolving stars signals their continuing evolution, meaning that if a star does not possess weather, it is no longer evolving. Magnetosphere evolution. The theory includes the evolution of chaotic magnetic fields driven by surface MHD processes in young, hot, electrically active stars, which then lead to strong global fields as the star cools and begins differentiation, meaning layering the central regions. It is claimed that global field formation signals the beginning of core formation via convection of the entire body, which also leads to an increase in flaring and rapidity of mass loss during red dwarf stages of evolution, or flare stars. Alongside core formation are the properties of iron-nickel, leading to an increase in magnetic flux density and a very large magnetic field. This means if a star does not possess a strong global magnetic field, then chances are there is no iron-nickel core, or mantle fluidity has ceased because of the star's extreme age, as in the case of Venus and Mercury. The absence of spectrums in older stars. In this theory of star evolution, older stars cool to the point of not having a light spectrum to measure them with. This means that all the oldest stars will no longer have light spectrums, but will start emitting mostly in the infrared, and will be classified as planets by the establishment. This is very, very strange. This is where they went wrong back in the day. They didn't realize that a planet won't be seen, so they said, well, we can't see it, can't be a star, it's not related at all. But they made the huge mistake of assuming that the oldest stars were visible, which is really strange if you think about it. Spectroscopy can still be accomplished to determine the atmospheric components, but the most evolved stars will not have continuous visible light spectrums. In this pseudoscientific theory, I think it's scientific, okay, of star evolution, older stars are mostly solid, middle-aged stars are gaseous, irradiate in the infrared, and young stars are very hot, big, and bright. Thus, the relative age of the star can be determined by its physical appearance. This is in direct contradiction to the Big Bang Theory, which states that ages of stars can be determined by their metallicity, or the ratio of iron to lighter elements, as measured against an event which happened 13.7 billion years in the past. According to stellar metamorphosis, stars exist in the Milky Way galaxy, which are older than 13.7 billion years. This means the standard classification of stars via population 1, 2, and 3 are redefined in opposition to Bade's original interpretation. Population 1 stars are plasmatic, population 2 stars are gaseous, population 3 stars are solid and liquid material, population 4 stars are dead worlds with no magnetic fields. It is claimed that this reduces the need for hypothetical stellar groupings which have never been observed, such as population 3 stars per standard definition. Determining the age of iron cores. It is also theorized that the ages of iron cores can be determined by measuring their size, giving the rate at which the material deposits and crystallizes on the interior of the star remains mostly stable. It follows that stars form their iron-nickel cores first, and then the outer material deposits on it, meaning the crust is the youngest portion of the star, which has mostly solidified. The most stable stratum available on Earth, which was not subject to fluid flow or weathering, is claimed to be this iron-nickel core made up of taenite and chemasite. It is also claimed that we can determine the relative positions of other ancient cores by the purity of the composite, with respect to the ratios of magnesium, oxygen, nitrogen, olivine, etc. It is also suggested to appropriately place Bowen's reaction series to reference much higher temperatures and pressures not provided by outmoded geological assumptions. Galaxy evolution. It is theorized in stellar metamorphosis that birthing galaxies contain the heat, energy, and velocities required to sustain fusion reactions. As well, young galaxies known as quasars are not at their proposed redshift distance according to Hubble's law, but have absolute magnitudes on a log scale according to their BV index, thus do not possess their proposed luminosities nor their vast distances. I link that there and there. Supporters. Well, don't need to read that. But there you go. There it is in a nutshell. I'm going to read it off for you. Alright, today is February 17th, 2016.